Well, hello everybody, and welcome to episode 2 of Tea with Louise. And in this series of interviews, chats, calls, I'm calling them Tea with Louise because I'm inviting fellow astrologers who I like and who interest me and whose work interests me to find out more about what they're interested in. And so today I have with me the lovely Sol Jonassen, and we're going to talk a little bit about esoteric astrology. But first of all, Saul, just kind of tell everybody kind of who you are, where you are. If they don't know you already, they probably do, but a little bit about your background.
Well, I'm Aquarius, yes, and I'm from Norway. And I started out with astrology pretty early. I was well, it's always been around. My father had these workshops with astrology when I was like 2 or 3, so I probably absorbed a little bit already then. I remember him telling me I was always hanging around and just curiously trying to figure out what they were talking about. And then when I was like 13, 14, I picked up, that my charts, and I started asking my father about all these symbols and glyphs, and he gave me my first lessons in astrology, and it sort of lit a fire in me that I haven't been able to kind of cool down ever since. And for us who falls in love with astrology, it's very you can recognize that kind of passion that comes. Well, it is such a beautiful language. It's just like, oh yeah, wow, it's logic, astrologic. It's, for me, logic is so interesting. It's like, that makes so much sense. And what it gave me was a life journey that includes a dimension of understanding that is constantly making my jaw drop. It's like everything, because it includes so much: psychology, healing, cosmology, history, which is like such an amazing study, and just trying to understand, what does it mean to be a human? Who are we anyway, and what are we doing here? What is everything? What's everything? I want to know.
No, I'm the same. I call it my 42 for lovers of Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy.
Yeah, don't panic. It's just a Pluto transit, But
I've had Pluto transit over nearly all my planets. I can tell you, Pluto transits are not to be feared. So.
Well, I currently have it on my Venus. It's so far so good. Hopefully, like, everything is happening in my chart for the time being, and it's interesting how you sometimes kind of. I remember watching my transits. I think it was Christmas 2020, and I was looking a few years ahead, and I'm like, oh, and I thought, either I'll go crazy or I'll walk on water. There's just two. I haven't gone crazy yet. There's still a bit of that Uranus square my sun and Pluto on my Venus left, though. But I haven't even mastered walking on water either. So, damn. But it's been quite a ride. And that's the advantage of having a little bit of astrology in your back pocket. It's that it's like, okay, I can now explain the weirdness or the craziness or the strangeness of my life.
It prepares you for any of these things as well. So how to lean into it rather than run away screaming.
Planet-splaining, I call it.
Yeah.
Planets I'm astro-splaining. It's because of my Uranus square the sun. It's not my fault.
By the way, everybody, we'll probably laugh a lot in this.
Yeah, I hope so. Because the Earth really needs it today. It's been.
It really does. Yeah, the energy.
There's a bit of gloom and doom going on, and it's hard on the emotional body in particular.
It is. So I've been talking to my friend in Ukraine this morning, and it's a month today since the invasion. So she's trying to write about it, but it's feeling very. So we're going to lighten things up a little bit and talk about the lighter side of life, because things will lighten up again after all this. So esoteric astrology. I became interested in it. I run a Venus retrograde class every Venus retrograde, and I've just run my 4th Venus retrograde class, and it came to me in a dream. And every time I kind of deepen my understanding and knowledge of Venus. And I think it was in the second class that I kind of started exploring the esoteric rulerships of Venus and meaning. And so that's really my only understanding of esoteric astrology. I've explored it a little bit more, but I've got my Gemini moon, and I'm studying I'm studying centaurs, I'm studying dwarf planets, I'm studying
everything. I'm studying everything.
all the things, all the things. So I thought I'd invite you on to talk about esoteric astrology a little bit more. So I understand it has rays and different rulerships, esoteric and hierarchical rulers, right? And such like. So tell me about your kind of history and story with esoteric astrology.
Again, one of those things that just came to me. It was, I was walking around in Oslo, the capital of Norway, in my beginning, where I really started to get deep into my astrology studies. And I was reading every book I could get hold of. And I also started drawing out charts, etc. And then suddenly there was this poster that Al Noken was coming to town. And I knew, the name because I'd seen his name in the bookstores, and he had already published quite a few books. So I'm like, oh, well, maybe I should go. I had no idea. It was a class in esoteric astrology. And just a brief overview of all the 12 signs. So that's where I first dipped my toe into that. And it sort of felt extremely liberating that there was a kind of concept about the soul. It was the soul that was at center, soul-centered astrology. And later down the line, it's... I also ran into evolutionary astrology, which is where I have my education, because it's, for me, evolutionary astrology and esoteric astrology, they seem to be kind of bleeding into each other. And it's also really taking the concept of the soul seriously. It's like there's a huge focus on the nodal axis, for instance. Now, it's not so messy around the rulerships, and it doesn't bring in the rays and all this understanding, which we can talk a little bit about afterwards. So for me, I felt it was more an appropriate study because I wanted to meet people where they were and not necessarily in their beautiful soul manifestation, because I think that's where we get to eventually, so we need to meet people where they are. And the thing with evolutionary astrology is that it's also including a theory about the different evolutionary levels, which is also something that comes through with the hierarchical ruler, the soul ruler, and the traditional ruler that esoteric astrology is very good, has a lot of material on. In evolutionary astrology, it's simplified slightly, and it's we start with consensus orientation, and then individuated orientation, and then spiritual orientation. And the beauty of esoteric astrology is that it also includes the concept of initiation. Yeah. Which is something that I think we need to talk more about. What is an initiation? What is going on Earth today? What is evolution anyway? And what is evolution of consciousness, which happens to be the title of the education that I took with Maurice Fernandez, Evolution of Consciousness. And I thought that was extremely, it's sort of explanatory for how I see myself. Like, it resonated deeply with what I saw in life, that it doesn't seem that we are all operating on the same level of understanding. It seems that some people are more complex in a way that's hard to explain through only using the 12 signs as a more flat format, like a one-dimensional format, like all areas are like this, and
it's almost like a personality description, really, rather than going deep into what's going on inside. Yeah.
And really meditating on these evolutionary levels for years sort of opens up something in your mind so that you can really understand the evolutionary challenges and the triggers, and you start to see it from a more creative perspective. So it's been quite a ride. And after that, I also happened to, I put aside esoteric astrology because it's super complicated, and the works of Alice Bailey is like, dear Lord, that's a lot of material to read. And I'm more of a practical oriented person. I wanted to do as many charts as possible. So I was a little bit, busy with that instead, trying to figure out the art of chart interpretation. So I kept to the modern ruler, and I just kept it a little bit easy. Like I don't mix tomato soup and miso soup; it doesn't work. So I keep my astrology simple. And but later on, I had a client in Bergen. This old woman, when I came to Bergen and started my practice, she was this old woman, Stella, from the United States, and eventually she got in such a bad shape that I had to come home to her in order to give her her treatments. Yeah. She wanted some healing for her knees, and we really appreciated each other's company. So we started hanging out. And it ended up with us meeting once a month, discussing esoteric astrologies. She was an avid fan of Alice Bailey, and she gave me all the books, and we discussed everything. And I got my own little esoteric group there, which was quite unique and special. And later on, I got together I was in a relationship for 8 years with a man who knew a lot about esoteric astrology. So it's always been like a thing moving next to me.
You were kind of meant to have that come into your world, I think, really, by meeting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I never actively searched for it. I never asked for it, just came to me. What I actively and consciously looked for was astrology, for sure, absolutely. But this was a thing that just came to me, and I'm happy for that. It's something that I keep returning to. It's just those little snippets of things that is written, especially Esoteric Healing is a very important book, I think.
Have you read all of the books now?
No.
I was going to say, no, she's written so much.
No, I'm not a big reader, actually.
I used to be, but Neptune seemed to have killed my reading skills.
Well, maybe you now think more than you read, right?
I could do audiobooks.
You can do audiobooks. Well,
let it when I'm walking and let it soak in. But
yeah. Well, I like to read normal literature right now and get inspired by life in general. The astrology, the period where I studied astrology and read a lot of astrology books seems to be a little bit over. Of course, I read stuff, like essays and
I read short. But I've got all these books that I haven't read. I dip into them sometimes.
Yeah, me too. Actually, yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah. But of course, for anybody who wants to look at the levels of consciousness, Jeffrey Wolfgreen's Pluto is kind of that's kind of required reading, really, if you want to read about that. So he kind of was the person that delved deeply into that, wasn't he? So and that's.
Well, there were more. Back in the 70s, 60s, 70s, when evolutionary astrology first started out, at least Stephen Forrest was there, and then Jeffrey Wolfgreen as well, and then you have archetypal astrology also coming in and also breathing life into some of the same stuff. But I also would recommend, especially, for understanding the evolutionary levels, you have Maurice Fernandez is really good with explaining and has a lot of material on it if people want to study it. Yeah. And there are numerous other brilliant astrologers in that particular area, like Patricia Walsh or Mark Jones, and they're all very, very good. So, but it's still something, I think, a concept and understanding we are all part of creating, and that's the fun thing with astrology. It's our contribution; it matters in a way. So that's what I'm. Yeah.
So you've said it twice to me. Once when I was on your podcast, and on this one, that you like to keep your astrology clean. So how has esoteric astrology informed your practice?
I used to meditate with the arcane school for a number of years, and it's esoteric means inner, right? It means inner. So it's a very interesting study. It's full of blinds. That's what they call it, esoteric blinds. So you have to think. It's like, what did they mean by that, and what's that for? You know, it's really a very reflective meditation to go through a lot of the material. And normally I just pick up a book. It could be like randomly on any given day and just have an experiment and just open it and then read the first page I see and then think about that for like 2 weeks. That can happen. And it sort of starts growing in your mind in a way. So and also through the arcane school, we had thought seeds, like meditation seeds, reflective meditation seeds for every full moon, and also more hidden for every new moon. And there is a very deep understanding about the moon phases. I mean, it might be something that is bleeding over from the Tibetan style of living, where you kind of use the moon phases for meditation practical praxis. And through that, you know, for instance, Sagittarius, I see a goal. I think it's like this. I see a goal, I reach the goal, and then I see another goal.
Yes.
Right?
As a Sagittarius stellium, yes.
Yeah. I thought you recognized that. You know, so for me, it's constantly something I just try to think about. You know, I think a lot about the soul rulers that they propose. And I've had a long period of time where I thought about the rays. You know, I'm trying. One of the things you try in esoteric meditation practice is you try to find your rays. They have this method of seeing a human being as a soul. A soul is also connected to a spirit, so it's through there we connect to a larger whole. It's through our soul, and via the spirit, and then to the solar logos, you know. So there's like this grid of light that we connect to as we serve in this particular order. And then underneath the soul, there's this persona. The persona is responsible for synthesizing the lower bodies. This is the initiatory process. You have the physical body, which is, you have the normal hatha yoga to discipline that one. And then you have the emotional body, which you have psychological therapy or any kind of you can breathing techniques and stuff like that in order to release the tension in the tension and the trauma in the emotional body. And then you have the mental body, which requires a bit of mindfulness and focus and concentration training in order to kind of like discipline, because the persona needs to be synthesized into a functional whole so that the soul can come through and start living out its purpose. Right. So if one of the meditation practices or the reflection practices in esoteric tradition is to try to figure out which ray, first there are 7, first ray of will, second ray of wisdom, love, third ray of active, I think it's called active intelligence, fourth ray of harmony through conflict, fifth ray of concrete intelligence, sixth ray of devotion, also fanaticism, and seventh ray of rituals, order, synthesis. Seventh ray is, they say seventh ray is the ray coming in, and sixth ray is going out, you know, in terms of how they see evolutionary.
Do they align them with the chakras, or?
Yeah, they have some versions of that too, absolutely. But it shifts according to what type of initiation you've gone through. Okay. So so the first, second, and the third initiation is the organization of the lower bodies. And in this meditation practice, you're trying to figure out what is your persona, what rays do you carry, and in that you recognize, like, I have a lot of first ray will, like it's a very strong energy. Could be a little intimidating, to be quite sure. I had a little trouble organizing that one.
I've never been told I'm intimidating either.
Never. Yeah, it's a ray that's very often present in leaders and politicians and military people, and it's a very, like, my teacher in psychosynthesis once said, "This is how first ray fixed a television," and he pounded it. There's like no need to go into the details, and that can be extremely frustrating for people who are more seventh ray, who needs to do things in a more orderly, controlled, and structured fashion. And here it's like it's an elephant in a porcelain store, right. For instance. Yeah. So, and then I have a lot of fourth ray I discovered, which is also a very artistic ray, harmony through conflict. It's a very interesting ray that a lot of artists bring in, and it can be very chaotic, but it's extremely feminine again. It's very feminine, and it matches.
Is that why you're doing a lot of art lately, to get in touch with your fourth ray?
I've always done a lot of art, but it's but now it's coming more out, I think. It's more a necessity for me now to have my heart, I desire doing it. It's a desire. And then, you have a first ray is masculine, second ray is feminine, third ray is masculine, fourth ray is feminine, fifth ray is masculine, sixth ray is feminine, and seventh ray is, well, I don't know how to, it's a synthesis. That's what it, so I don't know what that is. But going through that, trying to figure out where your rays are and at what level they are it's been quite a journey, actually, and we're still debating it. We have like a little circle of people who are into this, and it's like, I don't know, but your sixth ray of devotion is, like, you're so convinced all the time that this is the right thing, the fanatics, I'm so convinced, it's yes, this is what I believe in, and it's so devotional to something when it's first, so it's
tunnel vision, kind of.
Oh yeah. So, and the rays, they sort of describes a little bit the different kind of soul groups that are present on Earth, and then we can see something very interesting in terms of how to create a synthesis, a harmonious relationship between us. The scientist needs to talk to the artist needs to talk to the leaders, like we need to have that as a functional whole, but that hasn't happened yet. Huh?
It really has not.
And one of the most beautiful things I think Bailey is actually offering to the world is that she's also going into the different rays that the different nations have,
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that.
Mm-hmm. So what on a persona level, and then on a soul level. So if you look, I say I would have to check it out, but if you look, for instance, to the United States, which is a sixth ray persona and a second ray soul.
Okay.
It starts to make sense why the Americans are so emotional.
Yes, they are. I live amongst them.
But it's beautiful, there is so much like, there's such a big, huge expression, like this kind of like big, huge, it's so loud, it's such, and it can be a little sentimental. It's my dog, but it's really my child. and then underneath there is this love, wisdom, drive, like this gift that is also to be given to the rest of the world, that is, it's overshadowed by the lower aspects, and we are still in these lower aspects of our personas, and it's overshadowing our souls. And we say it, Earth as in general is a third ray, which is business as usual. Business as usual. It's a little cold, so it's a cynicism, and it's like, I scratch your back and you scratch mine, it's all this businessy thing.
Can I just say one thing quick? Isn't it interesting?
Yeah.
And this is not to say I support any particular side or anything, but isn't it interesting that Biden kept talking about recovering the soul of America?
What did he say? He said he was.
One of his sayings was, "I'm going to bring back the soul of America."
Oh yeah! Wow.
Yeah, just archetypally and energetically, isn't that interesting that he?
Very, very, very. You know, there is the United States chart is interesting. You know, like I've done. You know, what is the gift of the United States? You know, there's like Franklin. It was Roosevelt who said had the four freedoms. Yes. For instance, is a very Aquarian ideals, right? So in and of itself, the ideals, when they are pure, are extremely. I would love to have a world like that. Yes, I would.
Well, and the USA has the moon in Aquarius, of course. The people.
Yes, and the South Node in Aquarius.
Yes, the South Node too. And I talked about that with Tea with Louise #1 because we talked about Chariklo, the centaur, who is actually sitting on the South Node of the USA right now.
Chariklo there, yeah, that's true.
She was discovered in 1997 on the North Node of the USA. At 6 p.m. So.
Interesting,
isn't it? Anyway,
yeah,
I knew
that's very interesting.
Yeah,
but that, you know, the moon's in Sagittarius. We are supposed to move off in every direction.
I kind of had this, you know, intuitive feeling that, you know, the USA with the transits it's having has this opportunity to move to this higher level of what the USA was meant to be.
Was meant to be.
Yeah.
I mean, I think we are all getting this, what we were all meant to be. You know, there's a soul ruler for Earth, and Venus is the higher aspect of our Earth. You know, this unity through diversity, and it is a difficult choice, but it seems seemingly a difficult choice to turn to tolerance instead of intolerance. To turn the other cheek, to let go of your ego and embrace love as an active principle. It's seemingly very, very difficult because the instinctual gravity is so strong, the hold on our nervous system, our convictions, our rays, our personas, our histories. You know, we carry all these grudges, you know, and it's hard to sometimes just say, okay, I choose love. But that's the way to go. You know, it's the path of Earth itself if we want to get to this higher place. But again, the overshadowing energies, the lunar lords, as they are described in esoteric lore, are hard because they're holding a grip on humanity, and it's very persuasive. It's extremely it's like seductive. Seductive energies. It's like it's really seducing us into thinking this is the right way to do it. This is the right way to go. If I just convince this person of my truth, then the world will be a better place. And for me, that is like such a spasm of the sixth ray. It's like, dude, are you going to think that before you save everybody into Christianity, that you will not be happy on this place, in this place? You know, does everybody have to be agreeing with you in order for you to be happy? It's so selfish. You know, come on, man. We have to have that unity and diversity sooner or later. So in a better, more evolved place, there wouldn't be any racial discrimination.
Or any discrimination, racial, sexual, you know,
just gender as well.
Just let people be, you know, who they are. Anyway, do you mind if we talk about Venus a little bit more? Because that was
sure
how I came to it. And I think was it? Oh no, that was Blavatsky in The Secret Doctor. I think.
Oh wow. Yeah, you know, that's Chinese for me.
Yes, another one. But anyway, that's. But she said Venus is a very interesting planet. It's perhaps the most closely connected with the Earth in a number of ways, and it has been said that wherever Venus goes, there goes the Earth, and vice versa. So, seeing as we're talking about, you know, and I agree, the Earth is kind of the higher energy. Venus is the higher energy of Earth, and it's kind of what we're hopefully kind of trying to evolve towards. So which ray is Venus, remind me?
Which ray is Venus again? Wait. This is something I would have to check up because I'm not that good with the rays on the planets.
I think she might be. I think she's.
Let's just Google it. Which galaxy is Venus in? That was the. Oh, I thought, where am I? Oh, she, of course, she's the. Well, there's like isn't she the fourth ray?
Oh, is she? Yeah, perhaps so. But she is the hierarchical ruler of Capricorn, the esoteric ruler of Gemini, because I've looked into this for my classes, and the exoteric or kind of earthly ruler of Taurus and Libra on the
yes.
And isn't it interesting that the last two Venus retrograde star points, the last one was Capricorn, and the one before that was in Gemini, and the next
that's so interesting.
And kind of think that the Venus is really kind of calling us at the moment into this big initiation. Yeah. So I'd love your thoughts on that. So.
Yeah. Well, the Gemini thing is interesting because when you look to Gemini in traditional pop astrology, as I've known to call it, like the pop world of memes, which is fun and entertaining and super cute, but sometimes a little bit too missing the target, like failing to kind of understand the real spiritual depth in astrology. Especially, I think, Gemini is getting hard rep. It's like, please, there's more to Gemini.
My Gemini moon agrees.
Well, it is there is a certain, this is definitely a unity through diversity thing when you come to Venus as an esoteric soul ruler for Gemini. Yeah. Whereas, the mercurial aspect of it is going out, looking for information, getting informed, learning, having a learning experience about the world, and survival through knowledge. The more I know, the better I will survive, which can easily make a human being illoyal and all the things that maybe the memes are quite right with. It can be nervous, and it can be quick and too much, and disorganized or non-local, like it's losing its center in a way, and it's losing itself very often in the vastness of everything, like it's in its environments. So this decentralization problem is real for Gemini when it's looking for survival through adaptation. Right. And then from a soul perspective, when Venus comes in, something happens that you look to Russell Brand, for instance, he's a Gemini, right? And you look to Angelina Jolie, she's a Gemini, and Lauryn Hill, which is Lauryn Hill, like the prophet herself.
Yeah,
she's I'm like a huge fan, and her writing is powerful. Like sometimes words, but Venus through Gemini, when it comes, when the higher ruler of it. Bailey was a Gemini. Guru Maya Chivilisananda is a Gemini. It's really about bridging unity through diversity. It's really understanding that I create a bridge between people. I am here to heal through love and tolerance. Right, so you get really like a deeper, more profound expression coming through there, which is, it's not fidgety, it's not fickle, it's grounded in itself. It knows its self-worth, it knows its value. It doesn't really look for external validation in that sense, but it is a gateway it has to go through, of course. Why do you say the things you say? Why do you do the things you do? But it's open to the multiverse. It's open to, it understands about a great number of languages. So that's really, I think it's important for us to understand. And the last Venus retrograde, when we went just before everything, the quarantine and everything, that Venus retrograde sort of exposed us to Gemini North Node as well, like
that was all there.
Yeah. And we had to purify this Sagittarius South Node with our convictions, and I believe in this and I believe in that, and I'm right and you're wrong. We didn't get to that relativity of Gemini, where we could sort of say, oh, we're actually talking about the same things, but we're wording it a little bit differently. That would be a Gemini wisdom thing.
Yeah.
But there was a good lecture about that. Adam Gainsborough, he said also, like, this is where you start having I think, like, I'm loosely paraphrasing, but it was something like, this is where, the soul is ready to have different experiences, like a multitude of, like, going into different new areas of themselves.
Yeah.
And seeing yourself from another perspective, it's healthy. In terms of,
I'd say it definitely affected me in that way. But then the Venus star point in Gemini was on my moon. So
yeah. What degree was that again? 14, 12? 12, yeah, that's true. Yeah, and then the Venus retrograde in Capricorn, the hierarchical ruler, which is a planetary ruler thing, like, this is where we get into the mysticism of it all. What does that mean? Like, it doesn't come into effect until after the third initiation. So now we're into
that's way away from, but
yeah. But still,
we're kind of in it because we've just had the
Capricorn is interesting esoterically speaking, because it's another one of these misunderstood signs where we haven't quite.
Oh, it's the law, it's the rules, I'm thinking, but it's a feminine sign.
Yeah, it is a feminine sign. Yeah, but it's Saturn on the persona level, and then Saturn on the soul level, and then Venus on the hierarchical level. So Saturn is going through an alchemical alchemy, the alchemy of Saturn, going from sternness, judgmentalism. It could be really harsh and cold and punitive.
Yes.
Right. Yes. So, and then moving into this bodhisattvic expression almost, and we put the birth of Christ there. And in Capricorn, like the seed thought, the meditation for the full moon in Capricorn is, I see the light supernal, and then I move back to humanity to sort of share it. I go to the mountaintop, but then I go back again to share it. And there's a journey of becoming humble that is very important in Capricorn. I'm still learning it. It's hard.
Me too. I have Saturn in Capricorn in my first house.
So. Oh, you do? I have the things I don't have in Aquarius, I have them in Capricorn. On your knees, Sol. Come on. But my first tray, I'm right.
I would say, to give myself credit, I am learning it.
Yes, well, it's either through external humiliation or internal humiliation. You will be humbled in one way or another. And Saturn is not someone to joke around with. I've seen that plenty of times, and I'm constantly trying to be on the good side of my own Saturn, to be sure. I'm like, this adulting is really hard.
I always work very visually. I kind of picture these energies. I always kind of think of this energy as the higher energy of it, that is, as kind of the wise elder who gently just holds the person on the shoulder to say, no, don't do that. That's not wise. That's not, just take your time, slow down, and
Jesus was the character that was cast for Capricorn, which is so odd because it's not naturally what we think of Capricorn when we look at the memes.
Yeah.
We look at something else. It's the journey of, Capricorn is here to discipline the lower bodies. It's a yogic thing.
Yeah.
It's a yogi thing, like it's the yogas for me, the sutras. And
it's really to teach self-discipline. Not to discipline others.
Yes, you're responsible for your own reactions.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's where it shifts from Sagittarius, who wants to change the world or reform the world according to their conviction,
Right.
and then you could get to Capricorn, and it's like, well, maybe I should change my own reactive pattern before, huh? So it's maturing, it's taking responsibility and understanding what is my responsibility, and then through these initiatory processes, it's said that Jesus was initiate of a very high degree, was taking the initiation that is way beyond my comprehension, but, complete transfiguration in a way, where the ego is completely surrendered. And the way to the Father is through me. It's he's just becoming pure love. This is Venus, right? Is becoming pure love. Venus is harmony.
Yeah.
It's maybe it's a fifth ray planet. We have to figure that one out.
I think it's the fifth ray.
I think it's the fifth ray, because it's harmony. It's that 5 stars, and
yeah.
And the beauty of that harmony, like you see in Leonardo da Vinci, the man.
And it's the Venus star, yeah. So
yeah, the golden ratio, the golden ratio. You have it? Oh yeah, wonderful.
Always.
I'm born with Venus retrograde, so I should have one too. But and in Capricorn.
Oh, mine's cool.
It wasn't fun to have Venus retrograde in Capricorn until I discovered that the hierarchical ruler of Capricorn was Venus. Then it was like, oh, cool. But it is just getting that fat ass ego out of the way and start loving again. And love is its own law. It's when you study the lovers, the philosophy of love, which has been something I've had my experiences with these things, what power does love have? And in esoteric healing, there is these 10 rules and 6 laws of healing. Oh, okay. And one of the rules says,
I haven't discovered those yet. I'll be looking them up after we do.
That is so interesting. Yes, it's like the best. If you are interested in thinking about stuff that is interesting, that's interesting. Anyhow, one of the laws or the rules is rule number 6, I think. And it says you can't heal through will. The only healer is love. And that's something that I've been thinking about for so long, because we all want to fix the world. We want to fix people. We want to fix the world. We are very fixing mode all the time. And of course, there's something inside of us that says, if we neglect it, it will go into entropy. It will be destroyed. So we have to fix it, right? But in healing, there is a very, very interesting shift that goes on, and it moves away from your personal desires of what you want to have fixed. And you are becoming extremely confronted with your own personal desire in anything, and because of my pride as some sort of therapist or whatever, I need this person to become healed, or my reading to be successful, or my
ourselves too. We don't love ourselves. We just try and fix ourselves all the time, as if there's something wrong with us, always.
Yes. And I think the path of unconditional love is extremely challenging, because it requires that the ego moves out of the way and that you have trust in that energy, that it is that powerful and vast as we are told that it is. Yeah. And I just thought about that today, actually, this thing. I met this really powerful healer in 2017. He showed me a lot that I've been chewing on ever since, of course. Still chewing on it. Yes. But the most powerful thing he said once, it was just randomly, he just said, I love myself unconditionally, he said. Yeah. As a matter of fact, it was like, there was, of course, a context to why he said that, but I love myself unconditionally. what does that mean? What is that? I started thinking about, do I judge myself? Why? If I don't judge myself, will the things that I need to improve, that are lower desires that are destroying my life, for instance, will they just continue to be there? Will I just be enabling my own bad behavior? Is that what I'm going to do if I love myself unconditionally?
Sounds like yours and my head are in alignment. I'm always thinking.
I can't imagine, actually, that we are. I feel a connection to you, so I totally understand. And then I remembered something that I read back in the days when I started searching for meditation teachers, and I got involved slightly with an organization called Siddha Yoga. I was early 20s. Bhagavan Nityananda once said, people are weird. They think if they just let go, that they will just collapse into a blob and just lie in a corner for the rest of their lives.
Yeah.
And that's a little bit of the fear that I sometimes have. If I don't intervene, if I don't interfere or fix something, if it's myself or others, will I be neglectful? This whole Piscean neglectfulness, this fear of just being completely naive and not unaware. And that's kind of like a paradox when it comes to love. Because love is not necessarily enabling, it's very fierce. But it is when you love yourself unconditionally that you can take a little bit of self-criticism.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. And you're not just, it's such a deep topic.
It is. This is my favorite topic, actually.
Yeah, mine too. But we're probably blowing a few people's minds here. But anyway.
I hope so.
I hope so too. So I often talk about it, particularly in my Venus class, because I go quite deep and I do shamanic journey work in the Venus.
That's beautiful. Yeah.
And I often talk about, it starts with loving yourself first. You can't love anybody else fully until you love yourself first. So, and it's a path always of moving.
It is a path.
Moving towards love, because walk towards it and away from it. And yeah, I get your point completely about Jesus as a Capricorn, because and you did that phrase, about the only way to the Father is through me. How misunderstood has that been formulated?
Oh yeah. It is highly, that type of yogi masters the Vedas, the Tantras, and then eventually the non-dualism. Yeah. So it masters the concept of purity, to keep your body, mind, soul pure without going into Puritanism. And then it masters Tantra, which is also being capable of seeing diseased energies without going into battle. But becoming a transformative agent, an alchemist. And then the non-dualism, which is the highest form of responsibility that you can take on earth, is that this is all, okay, what is my part in this? And how did I create this? And that's just like a mind-blowing thing. It's very difficult to go, you can't skip any of these steps. And that's why Capricorn is such a slow journey often, because it's ensuring you that you're not cutting any corners. You can't walk on water until you can walk on water,
You can't jump from here to there. You have to climb. Yeah.
But one thing I wanted to mention about unconditional love that I've been thinking about a lot lately, and it's been extremely interesting. It's how we all, including myself, tend to judge the weather. I live in a very weathery city, and it's easy to it's like, it's raining again, And we are very conditional with our lives. Oh no, this happened, and now this happened, and now this happened. So when I move into a more unconditional state, also with my life, it's not as hysterical or dramatic. It's like, okay, so that happened. Well, that happened. It's not that I don't feel it, but
yeah, I agree.
It is what it is.
Yeah, and I always say I've had a very lucky life, but then I look back, I've had things that were, people would class as some kind of big drama. But maybe it's my a very optimistic Sagittarius self. I'm able to
Mm.
kind of look at it as go, oh yeah, that happened, and I'm here, and it's kind of like, and it
Yeah,
probably,
you found meaning in it.
yes, some things changed me for the good, really.
Mm.
My dad
Oh,
died. My dad died quite young. He died at age 61. So
oh.
I was very happy to make it to age 62, believe me, because it's kind of weird getting to the age that your parent died at. But that was back in
Mm.
97. And and yes, of course it was awful and upsetting, but I actually learned kind of a lot and gained a lot from the lesson of seeing him go through brain cancer and die.
Oh, that's pretty intense, huh?
It was the one that that glioblastoma that's
Hmm.
but I did gain a lot from it, and and it was an experience, and yeah, sure, I miss my dad and all those things, but I think we can kind of reach that point of going, it's not spiritual bypass, it's not override, it's accepting the grief as well, but also realizing that you can grow from these experiences, I think.
Hmm. Yeah, absolutely. No, I've been through so much. That's what I say. I like my life has been. That's a classical Capricorn thing, go through pressure, become a diamond.
I lived through a war in the 70s. I was in Northern
Where
Ireland.
was that?
In
In
Northern,
Northern Ireland, yeah. Oh,
yeah, I was
wow.
right in the middle of it in Londonderry.
Dear Lord, wow.
Yeah, and it in some respects it was awful, but I wouldn't say it was like the end of the world traumatizing either.
Hmm.
You know?
No, but the thing is, with this particular thing that we've been through lately, because we can compare it to other previous pains and stuff, and I've been thinking a little bit, why?
Oh,
Wow.
oh, your sound went a second. Could you repeat that?
Like, why has this last couple of years on Earth been so intense? Like, we have been so super involved, everyone.
Yeah,
Like, it's like there is like none of us gets out of it now. This belongs to everyone. And there's been a little bit of shaming going on around the Ukraine situation, where I've heard people, yeah, where were you when Syrians were suffering? And oh, come on, I was posting shit on Facebook that too. Jesus Christ, it's so unfair, you know. But it
and I've posted about Yemen, and I've posted about this.
yeah, we're supposed to be so we have to be so completely it's about justice,
Yeah,
like we have to be fair all the time, and it's so like, yeah, okay, yes, but like, wow, I'm just one human being. So it's a little bit of like an Atlas thing. I've been thinking a lot about the god Atlas lately, the guy who carries the
yeah.
world on his shoulder. Yeah. and I'm thinking, what is it with this particular period? Because we all know that COVID started with the Saturn-Pluto conjunction. That's what astrologers know.
Yeah. Oh, back in
That's
January 2020. Yeah.
that was the beginning of the globalization of COVID. It happened before, of course, the seeding of it, but then it really, it hit like
Yeah.
and we were one, because this thing didn't know any boundaries. And what came up from the psychology of humanity in the underbelly of Earth, from Hades itself,
Yeah.
came the truth. And it was not really beautiful. It
No.
was a lot of ugliness coming through. And I think COVID has done that. It's brought everything to the surface.
Yeah.
It's and it's
And
and
I think this invasion of Ukraine is too, because
it's part of that.
it's bringing up all these kind of ancestral kind of soul,
All the grudges,
all of them. Yeah. It's
all the grudges, all the fear, all the listen. You did this to us like 50 years ago. Now we're going to do that to you back again. It's like this. It's like, yes, okay. So it's bringing up the wounds to the surface. And this is what we can meditate on as we're moving into a Sun Chiron new moon, not so long,
yes.
in a week's time or so. So it's like, COVID has pulled everything to the surface, and I've equated it with a collective first initiation, where we are understanding we do not act, we are not separate human beings. My energies affect yours.
Oh, I
And
see
it's
it
about,
all the time on my Facebook posts. I'm always going, everything we do affects somebody else.
yes, your thoughts, your opinions, everything, your energy. You are here to create. You are here to co-create. And the first initiation is to understand that nothing is like, there are consequences for your inner world on your health.
Yes, exactly.
And we've had a huge outsourcing of health for a long time. We've outsourced it to this thing and that thing, and now you have to fix me and you have to fix me.
Yeah.
So I think we're dealing with a lot of codependency in a way. And I also think we're dealing with a lot of ignorance when it comes to our co-creative capacity, and also to our
A lot of blaming and shaming because it's somebody else's fault that we're here, never mind, you know.
and generally a lot of health issues. Like, we've had a lot of neglected health issues for quite a while.
Yeah.
And we're trying to figure it out. And you can see now that the health systems on Earth, like the health industry, is not capable of taking everything. So we have to take more.
And the health of our food too.
The food, yeah. Ukraine and Russia is.
Ukraine, of course, is the breadbasket of the world. So
exactly. So now we're moving into famine, and I'm like, yay! But like, the only thing I say is that, well, we eat too much anyway, so most of us do.
We can all eat, yes. Yeah.
And so it's just going to put everything with health to a much larger, and psychological health. I mean, it's just bringing everything up to the surface. And one of the initiatives that I've been part of when it comes to esoteric groups is it's called the 2025 initiative. And it's you have to take a step into the world of esoteric to kind of understand it, but it has to do with the hierarchy and whether or not they want to return to help humanity on this next step. Because there's the concept is that we need to be on our own 2 feet soon. We have to be able to make good choices, healthy choices for ourselves soon. We have to get to this point where we're conscious enough to do that. Yeah. And we are getting there.
Yeah.
And it's not just people who are into the field that we are into, for instance, who are fairly conscious about, but it's more global now. And it's also, of course, if you've seen Maslow's pyramid, you also know that a lot of people do not have the privilege or the luxury of being able to think of all these existential philosophical issues in life.
They're surviving.
Yes, exactly. So, but we still have to make good choices in that process. We have to make wholesome and responsible choices in that process, and not be so reactive and impulsive. Yes. That's where we fuck up every time.
It is. And you talk about, why are we in this now? I find it interesting that this invasion has come on the back of the Venus retrograde in Capricorn as well. And so we started kind of with the Saturn-Pluto conjunction in Capricorn. And then Venus came in, and then Mars came in. And it's kind of just like this repeated lesson, because we are not getting it. So it's like
I mean,
stuff to learn.
We have to become more transparent with our motivations, and what's the motivation behind this or that? Why did you really do it? Why did you really? I mean, everything. We have to be able to listen to all sides of the story, and we have to be willing to do that. Even to the even the bastard has an explanation, and even if we are not agreeing with it, we at least if we hold space for it, it might be feeling it might ameliorate something.
Well, I've spent the last 2 weeks reading. Have you heard of Alexander Dugin?
Dugin.
Dugin.
Dugin. Yeah, I've heard the name. Yeah. Yeah.
He's called Putin's brain. He's kind of a
One of those, yeah.
yeah. And he's on Facebook. You can look him up, Alexander Dugin. He posts on
Oh,
Facebook.
really?
Oh yeah,
Hmm.
his thoughts are not kept secret, shall we say? But I've been reading loads of his posts and things to try and understand
Good.
what they're
You know,
thinking.
like
I don't agree, but yeah. Yeah.
I have a friend in Moscow, you know, that I've been talking a little bit about, and it's again this Saturn Uranus thing. You know, we had 3 squares last year,
Mhm.
and there is this. There are numerous energies that haven't been dealt with, like fascist energies and stuff like that, that I saw back in 2012 when Saturn was in Scorpio, and I saw there was a tendency for Europe to go a little brown. I was like, oh, fascism's back, you know, and we've always had that, you know, this. Um, and then you have separatism versus globalism, which is another thing that's going on, and nationalism versus cooperation in a way. And why should we cooperate when the United States is ruling the cooperation? You know, like it's this kind of like power game going on, and you have the petrodollar and the yuan, and now you have the ruble dollar, and it's really like it's like a chess game and for power. But I see that, you know, the Saturn Uranus thing is progress is happening. You have the gender fluidity, gender neutrality thing going on. And then in Russia, there are some very, there is resistance to this kind of
Oh,
modern thinking.
oh,
So there are always these,
this is
and
all
it,
Alexander Dugin. Yeah,
yeah, and yes, and it's just like,
calls us Babylon. With the rest of
yes, exactly. It's like, oh dear Lord, you heathens, you
Yeah,
know. So it's these retro energies trying to hold back a progress that
yeah,
is Uranian,
yes,
and then the resistance will always be much more contrasted. Like we are against this evolution,
yeah.
and there is, so it's like a resistance to what is going on earth. And you see this with anti-globalists, for instance. It's like, we want our national values to be upheld, we do not trust the world government, blah blah blah. And on the other hand, we have ecological problems that forces us to unite.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But who gets to be in charge? That's the big problem.
I think
Yeah.
this is the big problem.
So that's earth.
Go on, then we can solve here.
I wish I was an alien occasionally and just go, let's just check in on Earth to see if we can kind of like scare them into unity.
I know.
I've often thought.
And
Uh,
I see the, we're moving into this age of Aquarius, or we've moved in, or whenever it starts. Who knows? You started that conversation in a group we're in. But I talk about the age of Aquarius because it's that dual ruled sign, Saturn and Uranus, and we've had that square as bringing in the wisdom of the past, the best of it in a modern
mm,
way. That would be the best way of moving into the age of Aquarius. So, like going back to sustainable farming and indigenous fire methods and things like that, but bringing it in and combining it with the best of modern kind of thinking. So,
my
I'm an
ex-boyfriend had,
idealist.
yeah, my ex-boyfriend had an excellent, you know, he is a very smart man, and he had a very good explanation on how he thought the world could be run in the future. I would love to talk more with him about that. But he said that on one level there has to be a certain kind of world communism, like on a very global level, because we have to distribute these necessities like electricity. We have to have somebody organizing the natural resources on Earth, because they
Yeah,
really don't belong to anyone, and especially not corporations. But then, in order not to completely kill personal creativity and initiative, you have to have a certain kind of decentralized local communities that are self-organizing.
yes.
And then when you get that think globally, act locally kind of thinking, that I think will be part of the Aquarian age, which is, if you strain with communism or personal initiative, and you don't validate that, or you don't appreciate it, or there's no reward for doing a little bit extra,
Yeah.
people won't feel motivated to excel. And we need people to excel.
Oh, we
We
do.
need their genius,
Yeah,
right?
which is why neither one has or none of the systems so far have really worked.
No, it has to be a synthesis, and like
ideally run by councils or circles, like the Dei Consentis of the gods of Rome. So you have a circle running the local community, then a circle
yeah, exactly,
running a few local communities, then
But in a world where everybody's, where we project corruption on everything, we're not gonna trust anyone.
No.
At least not a global, like United Nations or something that could be a sort of organ who could actually organize such a thing. So we don't trust them. So we're gonna try to, kill them, destroy, because we don't want it. We don't trust anyone. And of course, that's because economy, capitalism has become such a potent power on earth today. So follow the money is still a thing we need to be aware of, and yes, we still have a lot of selfishness. So we're far away from doing it, from organizing ourselves into pure creativity. That's for sure.
Absolutely. I still have hope that this all might shake out in that way.
I have kids, so I'm forced to have hope. Now, there is a dark side of Aquarius for sure, and it's okay, get me out of here. My heart bleeds for the suffering of Earth today, really. And I think we're all feeling this Zeitgeist, this Weltschmerz, this pain that is now circulating. But I think it is up to us to not strengthen it through. This is where you have an esoteric principle called starving out. Don't feed the wolves.
Yes.
If you don't want the wolves on your door, don't put food out to them. So it's about consciously choosing where you put your energy. And that's in order to ensure that at least that little part of God, which is flowing through me, is going to flow uninhibited. Like we have to choose the master wisely.
That's why I kind of consciously chose during the 4 years of the prior president in the US. I didn't listen to him. I didn't follow him.
Yeah.
I was just like, I'm not going to feed his attention. I got so annoyed with the media for covering him all the time in these, it's feeding the wolf. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. To step up, Jesus also said, be in this world, but not of this world, and that's also something that I've spent a lot of time thinking of, because it's about being
I'm always aware of what's going on.
Yeah, just like reaction versus response in a way. It's not really easy, like we have fear. Fear is very seductive. I think fear is like it's the devil itself, in a way. And it's very convincing. This is the right thing to do. But in moments where I find myself in contact with higher energies, I see a larger perspective, and then I understand that this is part of our evolution right now, whether it feels completely surreal or not. But nobody said that healing was easy. It's just that it's very energy demanding. I think a lot of us, we're going to be busy with doing that for a decade or so into the future, for sure. So this is the next, my friend said before COVID, he said, it's post and pre.
Yes, it is. And, I hope to live long enough to kind of at least see some healing coming.
Well, you see healing in your everyday, this is where I'm put, you give service, like I can see miracles happen through the people I love. And
I collectively.
Yeah. So if we all did our little job, like being gardeners, I'm a gardener, I try to make people blossom. It's what I try to do in my work. And so if we all did a little bit of it,
I try to, work with my clients, leaving them feel inspired and better than they felt about themselves before they came into.
Yeah. But it's hard to fend off all this pollution. It's like we have to give them tools to transform them.
Exactly. Yeah.
And that's why I'm so hard with the shamers. It's like, please, come on. It's so healthy to be strong. Why do you try to shame me into weakness again?
I know. She shamed me once. And she was right.
No.
I just thought about it afterwards and I thought, yeah, it was a little bit mean that way.
Yeah, but you can, but it's okay, you know, like sometimes I can be I have, you know, we all have our thing, you know.
We do, yeah.
Yeah, we do. I have my race.
And
I try to tell.
we all slip, you know, we all
Yeah.
it's a process of kind of raising your consciousness. It's not like you're, like you said, not you don't leap from here and you're suddenly there and walking on water.
No. No. Like, and I no, normally when I miss the target, I say, well, you try having 7 planets in air, because I have 7 planets in air. It's hard. What's your excuse?
Fire.
That's mine.
Mine is the fire.
Sorry. Yeah, exactly. It's hard to regulate energy, and we just have to become tolerant, you know, before we can love ourselves. Maybe we can try tolerating ourselves, because that seems to be hard enough. You know, like, dear Lord, I can be such an a-hole, you know. I can. Look at her, here she comes, Ray number 1, you know, not listening at all to other people, but just thinking she's right all the time, you know.
So talking back to these exoteric, esoteric, hierarchical, and the initiation, is it which way does it go? Do we go exoteric to esoteric to hierarchical?
Yes.
Right? Yeah.
You start with the meditation is to become conscious of your soul, that you have a soul, you are a soul, you are the soul, and then surviving the fusion with your soul, which is a total crisis. It can lead to so many things coming up from the solar plexus, and the you know, it's just pulling everything up to the surface. It's like, imagine the soul being an energy above your head, like a magnetized radiating energy, and it's like a full moon. It just fires up everything. So when you get in touch with your soul in meditation or through human evolution, everything that isn't processed will come up, you know, and it's really critical. So that's when you have a lot of spiritual crises, and people seem to lose their minds, or you can have almost like semi-psychotic incidences, and you're like, now I'm really going crazy, you know. It feels like it's getting worse, you know. And hopefully that's, a lot of people now will gain soul consciousness, and the soul is love. It's the soul is just pure love, and that's powerful enough, you know. So I think a lot of people are going through a little bit of a crisis these days, and with the right kind of tools, you can sort of step back a little bit and understand it from a deeper perspective. But for me, that was extremely helpful to know that, okay, as I'm moving into a closer proximity with my own soul nature, there will be crisis from the persona, and there will be resistance, and I will have the inner rebel going crazy and like, no, I'm not gonna do that, you know, because you have to obey the soul, and you have to start trusting it and surrender to
sounds like my very own journey without only I wasn't doing the esoteric astrology. So yeah.
Thank God it wasn't just me. I thought I was going crazy.
I know, I've had many times. Yeah. And I've been going through one lately, and
oh yeah,
it's kind of good crazy, but it's still like what's happening to me kind of thing.
And in the light of the soul, you see everything. You see everything you've done. You see, like, the consciousness without love is very difficult and very hard. So if you're conscious but you don't have love, oh, you're in danger, man. You know, you have to have love, because you're gonna make mistakes. You're gonna see everything. I mean, you're looking into your own shadow, and it's not always pretty. You know, like, I had to tolerate myself. I'm not perfect. I don't think I'll ever be, and I'm okay with it now.
Unconditionally loving. That's what.
So and here she comes, the weirdo.
I read the hierarchical realm, if you like, is kind of the monad. That's really realizing we're all one. Yeah.
Yeah, then we are more on a that's where you stop being a person.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And we're never going to do that, but that's kind of, you kind of maybe have glimpses of feeling that oneness.
You are already there.
Yeah.
You are already there all the time. It doesn't really matter whether we realize it or not.
Yeah.
But we are already there, and the realization is the journey. You know, it's like, oh dear Lord, but we can't stay there because we have stuff to do here.
Exactly.
You know?
We're in this human suit. We're in this
Yes.
and things.
Well,
so
yes.
But you know,
And
I feel like I've been on this kind of esoteric journey myself over the last years in a very big way without knowing the esoteric astrology, you know, and I've definitely had glimpses of feeling that oneness in big ways. Yeah.
Yeah.
Kind of overwhelming sometimes. So.
And it's very strange, but eventually you will feel you are tuned into an engine of pure energy, and it will never leave you. This is the source of life you merge with. And people ask me, where do I get my energy from? I'm just like, do you have 3 hours? Yeah. I would have to use at least 3 hours to explain to you. And then people think I'm insane because they haven't had an experience with that type of energy. And I'm like, what? So much energy. I had a meditation yesterday. It was the day before yesterday. I was touching something and it was like, okay, you know, like that.
Yeah. I've had
so it's real. It's real.
It is real. Yeah. Really, a lot of it started for me way back at the late 80s when I started astrology, actually, as well, because I had some very mystical experiences in real sweat lodges, in Native American sweat lodges. I was lucky enough to be invited to actual kind of, you know, native-run sweat lodges, and I didn't know what I was stumbling into, but I just went along and went with it, and I had some amazing experiences, and it kind of my spiritual, personal, whatever growth initiation really kind of started about then. So, yeah.
I believe you can get initiated everywhere. You know, it's for me the church is it's limitless. Of course, it helps.
I do now, but that kind of that activated it, I would say. Yeah.
The masters, they are walking quite often, quite invisibly around us. You know, it can be
I call it
cat. What?
I call it the mistress. The mistress.
The mistress or the mistresses.
The goddess, Venus.
Yeah, no, this is that inner world is fascinating, and I wish I could show people. It's like sometimes it breaks my heart that I can't show people. It's like, oh, I wish I could just show you. Like my mother, for instance, she's like, I wish I could meditate, and she's stuck in her own loop. And I sometimes think, so, oh, mother, if you just leaned into me, you would see, but you have to be willing to let go and come close again.
I will say I am not a sitting down meditator. I meditate when I'm walking, or I do shamanic journey work. My busy brain needs a more active form of meditation than it needs movement to meditate.
Yeah. You know, sometimes all you need is a teacher who can hold you still.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes you have to tell the dog, shh, sit.
Oh, shamanic journey work is just as good. I have to tell.
Yeah. Well, I have my yoga. My yoga is my life guardian, and then my sitting meditations is concentration. That's what it is, you know. So you just concentrate and concentrate and concentrate. It's yoga too, you know. Like it's a moving energy, right? So it's, for me, energy. The world of energy has always been extremely fascinating, and I just try to see how I can move energy, command energy, move energy. It's like, this is my nerd thing. That's when I shouldn't talk to people, because it's like, okay, that's weird, you know. But that's meditation.
I love nerds.
Yay.
I am probably a nerd myself. So just
Probably.
last thing to bring it a bit down to earth. Do you use the esoteric astrology at all in your readings, even if you don't speak to it? Do you kind of look in the chart and kind of see that kind of energy and stuff?
Yes, occasionally it just comes through in quite, without me thinking of it.
Yeah.
But it's always in the back of my mind, and I have this evolutionary astrology. It works, So
I'm an evolutionary astrologer at my heart. My teacher was one of Stephen Forrest's first
yeah.
apprentices. So yeah.
Yeah. So for me, that's sort of like it works, but so I not consciously. I don't offer it as a service, like.
No, I didn't think.
No, I don't.
And it's almost too big to talk about, but I just wondered if it kind of leapt out at you when you look at somebody's chart. Kind of.
Well, I teach at a school here in Bergen at Arhat. It's called Arhat. And she is also including in the 4th year esoteric astrology, and she's she's a 6th grade and she loves it, so she's bringing it in everywhere. But I try to keep, especially for students, try to keep it as easy and simple as possible, so I don't mess it up with asteroids and midpoints and let's go into advanced techniques. So I consider esoteric astrology an advanced technique and a meditation area more than anything. Yeah.
And with the asteroids and things, I do look at them and use them, but I only speak to them or bring them into a reading if they kind of scream at me in the chart.
Yeah. Same.
I don't try and cover every little asteroid.
Except Ceres, because she's not an asteroid, she's a dwarf planet.
She is a planet. Yes.
She's a dwarf planet. She's a planet. So like that's my only thing, like I'm
trying
to.
I actually see Ceres as kind of a missing personal planet, because she's just
exactly
the asteroid belt, and she's kind of part of the divine feminine that was kind of missing.
Oh dear Lord, yes. She's been very active for this COVID thing, though.
Yes, goodness. Oh yeah. She's conjunct my ascendant, so. Yeah.
Okay, interesting. Wonderful. Yes.
Oh well, this has been wonderful, and I could talk to you all day, but
Yeah, we should hang out. And I'm coming to the United States in August. I'm coming to ISAR.
We're gonna meet each other.
We're gonna meet.
Colorado.
Yes, Louise. Yeah, hurrah! It's going to be so nice to hang out.
It is. It's gonna be fun. So thank you for coming on, and
thank you for having me
again at some point.
Yeah.
Have
a lovely day. Same.
Oh, before I go, how can everybody find you? Polaris Astrology. Yes.
Oh, dear, telepathically. I only accept people telepathically. No, I'm just kidding. No, they can find me at Polaris Astrology on IG, Instagram, and also the same on YouTube, and Polaris Astrology on Facebook. And then and your website, but it's not Polaris Astrology, it is solvit.com.
Yeah.
So
I'll put the links in the show notes.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, well, thank you. Have a great rest of your day.
Thank you. Bye-bye.